there, this flesh. And she's talking about them lynching. And people, white people, were upset about that song that they published it. But RCA published that song, and it became a #1 hit, Strange Fruit. And she almost won a Grammy because of it. Because she published something during the Civil Rights Movement that was sort of like a underground thing that only African American people understood. But when black people, white people finally got the gist of what she was saying, because they thinking fruit, when they got the gist of what she was saying, then they found out, no, she wasn't talking about no fruit. She talking about lynchings that go on. Boy, they were upset, but they couldn't do anything about it because the song sold millions. You know, so they use them for those things. That's why lyrics are so powerful. Instrument is powerful, but lyrics, when you put words to something, you can change people completely, totally. You can change their mindset. You can change their heart. And people say, well, songs don't have an influence on me. I do what I want to do. Boy, no. People who don't have a mind like, they act out on songs. They do things on songs, which we're going to talk about. We're going to discuss. Like when we get into our written lyrics, we're going to talk about those things. Because remember now, we're talking about these things have a spirit behind them. Instruments have a spirit behind them. Lyrics have a spirit behind it. And depending upon what you do and what you're listening to, this spirit can sway you one way or the other. It can either be encouraging or discouraging to you. Folk song. We think folk songs are country. No, they're not. They had them over in Africa. A lot of folk songs would come from tribal. Those were folk songs that they were saved. They had messages in them. Folk songs have messages about the culture, about what goes on within that particular society. And they would use those folk songs to speak to each other.
Is that what folk song mean, a message?
Huh? It means a message. That's what they're doing. And a folk song is dealing with messages that people would pass on from one to the other. And we always associated with people out of Tennessee or out of Alabama. You know, we associated with people like that. Folk songs, because they got the little banjo, no. Folk songs originated over in Africa. And that's how they would tell the story and pass along messages through folk songs about what was happening within their particular area. And they wanted to pass it on to their children, or about certain tribal leaders or kings. Even the Indians had folk songs. And the Indian folk songs would do the same thing. Talk about wars, talk about battles that they won against the white man or against the French, different things or sufferings that they went through. Those folk songs were set forth for messages. And that's what they brought forth. They had a message in them. And if you heard the song, you would get the message of what they were trying to convey and what they were trying to relate to others. Any questions, conversation over these 5? What is a hymn? It's not the opposite of a her. What's a hymn? Remember, we gave those 3 week before last. Psalms, hymns, spiritual songs. And we talked about specifically what a hymn was. Huh?
Praise addressed to God.
A song that is a praise addressed to God. It invokes praise. Hymns invoke praise. So when we start looking back, and we associated it back here, hymns that were set forth to give praise unto God, songs that Moses and Miriam and others did that gave praise unto God, immediate for a battle that was won, for deliverance when they crossed the Red Sea, for going into the promised land, songs that would just come up, that would invoke a praise unto God. Those are hymns. Whenever you have a hymn is supposed to tell a story that has an outcome that always has a praise unto God. That's what it's supposed to be. It is supposed to get you in a direction of praise toward God, to always understand who he is, what he's done, how he's delivered, how he's brought you out, whatever it was. That's what a hymn is supposed to do. That's how it's supposed to allow us the opportunity to understand who God is, because that message in there is all about God, about what he does and how he does it, his exploits, in order to give praise unto him. This one's going to get you. Somebody tell me what that is.
I did say something. I say I don't know.
Doesn't it have something to do with the way that it's played, or the pace that it's played? No. How do you pronounce that?
Celebretto.
Oh, you look better than lot.
Minister Shaw, have we ever lived with opera? No one.
Say what? Who said it?
I did.
No, who said it?
He Googled it.
Okay.
You should have been like that Googling it, talk about what goes.
Because it has to do with the play, but it has to do with the singing. Remember, we're dealing with the lyrics. Libretto is dealing with playing because of the way in which it's played. When an opera, full of energy. Opera, when they play opera, is always full of it. And when they sing, they're singing with energy. It's all about the energy. Most of it's in Latin. Majority of it, 95% of it is in Latin. Some are in Spanish. A couple of them are in Greek.
So is that still why the Catholics still sing the way that they
Sure,
do?
absolutely.
I thought that was more of a
And it's more because of that. Because in Italy, all throughout that area, that's what they sing, those operas. And operas have a story. Operas can be dramatic, like Carmen. That was good. I like that. That was very interesting. We had that when I was in high school. We went to a couple of operas. Our English teacher took us to an opera. That was cool. Cultural, astounding. You know, when you know the story of what they're talking about, and you understand what they're doing, it's theatrical. An opera is theatrical. It's singing, but theatrics. Because you can see murder, you can see depravity, you can see mischief